Hi everyone. Till last class, we were discussing about the visual force pages, right? So today class is we are going to start with some story. Let me open Paint. Okay. In initial days, we were having telephone booth, right? We were having some telephone booths. Initially, probably in the airport or anywhere, wherever you see, there is only one telephone booth. People has to stand in the queue. People has to stand in the queue. Till the one person is completed, the other person cannot enter into the telephone booth. For example, there is a few members are in the queue. Okay, 4 members are there. Now these 4 members are waiting here because there is a person inside. There is a one person inside who is talking to his family, right? Who is talking to his family or her family. Now this person is not coming, like this person is taking more than 25 minutes. And this is A1 and B1, A2. Let's assume that A3. A person is okay, because after this person he has to go, so he can wait. A1 person is thinking that only one person is there before me, so that should be fine. But A2, A3 people are like, they are asking everybody like why it is taking so much time. Now, until unless this person come out, this person cannot go inside. This person cannot go inside. Now it is taking so long time, everybody is frustrated. Now they have discussed. A1, A2, A3 discussed that. A said that I'll take only 2 minutes, just a quick call. A1 said I'll take just one minute call. I just need to inform my family that I have reached here. And Ram, this A2 person said, I'll take 5 minutes because I'll have to talk to my friend. And A3 said that I need 1 minute. Okay, because just to I have to inform my boss that I have reached to this place. Now this person came out and a person went inside. A person said just 2 minutes, but he is taking it 10 minutes of time. The call is continuing it because family members are talking. So his call somehow extended to 10 minutes. That should be okay, 10 minutes because he is talking to family. But A1 took 45 minutes. He said just 1 minute, but he took 45 minutes, almost more than half an hour. And this person said, he said 5 minutes, but it took the 50 minutes. Now there is no control on it. People are saying verbally that I'll take just 1 minute or 2 minutes, but we cannot guarantee that 1 minute, 2 minutes, the call gets over. There is no automatic disconnect, right? Based on the discussion, the call might extend. Now people will stop going to this telephone booth. People will stop going to this telephone booth. Now this person started thinking on it. Because I cannot, whoever is the owner of this telephone booth, this person cannot tell the other person, you have to take only 3 minutes or you have to take only 2 minutes. The owner cannot tell. So we cannot restrict. If owner starts saying that you have to take only 2 minutes, nobody will come. Because next time whenever the same person will come, he knows that, okay, there is a person very harsh, he will not allow me to talk. more than 2 minutes. Then suddenly he thought another idea, probably he has to increase the telephone booth. So he implemented small telephone booths. There are 5 telephone booths he has implemented. Okay, so here the board that kept is whoever is only less than 2 minutes, whoever is only less than 2 minutes can take this telephone booth. So that means less than 2 minutes, then they can use this telephone booth. Whoever is having a long conversation, they have to go to this telephone booth. They have to go to this telephone booth. Fine, because first person may be taking it 25 minutes, or second person might be taking 30 minutes, or third person might be taking the 45 minutes. It doesn't matter how long you are taking it, it's up to you. Because there are 5 are there. 5 telephone booths are, 5 boxes are there. So in each, if whoever is having the next conversation, they can stand it here. The person can stand here. Whichever the person will come first, we can go to that particular box, right? So same thing, what this person is said is only less than 2 minutes. How he is doing it? Because he has some automation tool that after 2 minutes, it will disconnect. Max of max, it will allow, this box will allow only 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, it will disconnect the call. Automatically, it will disconnect the call. So the person cannot extend more than 2 minutes. But after 2 minutes also, if the person wants to continue, then they have to come to the longer conversation booth. Longer conversation telephone booth. So the person can come here. Now, what is this? Here, the people are standing in sequence. The people are standing in sequence. So what is that means? Here, people are standing in the queue. That means unless one person is not done, the other person cannot enter into the telephone booth. In terms of Salesforce, what are the sequences there? The line by line standing unless one person in Salesforce term, assume that these persons are job. These persons are jobs. So there are 4 simultaneously jobs are scheduled at the same time. Unless first job is completed, the second job cannot run. Or I can say process. This process has to complete first, then only this has to complete first, then only the other process will start executing it. Once these 2 processes are completed, then whatever the next line it is there, the process gets executed. In Salesforce term, this is called as a synchronous service. Synchronous services, right? Now here what we have parallelly going on. If I have 5 members who need a longer conversation, 5 members go into the 5 different boxes, right? And whoever comes next, the person will go to the whichever the empty is there. Need not to wait for all 5 to come out. Need not to wait for all 5 to come out. Whichever the box is empty, they can go here, 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 whichever the place is there. What is this called? This is in terms of Salesforce, it is called as a asynchronous services. Asynchronous services. Asynchronous services. That means here the jobs are running parallelly. Jobs are running parallelly. This job, whatever this job is there, it is not waiting for this to complete it. It's continuing it. And this is also continuing the process. And this is also continuing the process. This is also continuing. Everybody is continuing the process. This process is not waiting for this. This process is not waiting for this. Right? Everybody running parallelly. All the jobs are running parallelly. right? So whichever the one is empty, the next process will go into that lane. Fine. So this is in Salesforce, we call it as a asynchronous services. Asynchronous services are like whatever the jobs we have, whatever the process we have, the process can execute it asynchronously. That means parallelly the data or process the data parallelly based on the availability of the resources. Process the data in a sense, there is a one person standing here, processing of the data parallelly whenever the availability of resource is there. Availability of resource means whenever there is a box is empty, nobody is there, then the other process can go and start the processing in that box. Okay, this is asynchronous services. Let's note down the points. Synchronous services. Synchronous service is nothing but line processing of data. Line processing of data, or I can say one after one. Is called synchronous service. And by default, Salesforce, by default, all actions and jobs are synchronous. By default, Salesforce will execute everything into the synchronous. What are the program that we have written till today? They are processing synchronously. They are processing synchronously. If there are two programs, okay, if there are two programs are running, first it has to complete the first program, then the second one, they will push the second one. Until unless the first process is does not complete, second one cannot go, right? So once the first one is completed, then only we can push the second one. Then only Salesforce is going to push the second process to execute it. So far, whatever we have implemented in the Apex classes, everything is running into the synchronous. Now coming to asynchronous service. Asynchronous services. Processing of data parallelly. With availability of resources. Is called asynchronous services. Asynchronous services. Asynchronous services means processing of data parallelly. That means if I have a four jobs can process at the same time with availability of resources based on the resource that is available at the backend. Based on that, the job gets executed. In case if the resource is not available, it will wait in the queue. It will wait in the queue. Now, asynchronous processes, there are four types of process. There are four types of services are available. in asynchronous. What are those four types? One is the batch apex. Second one is schedule apex. And the third one is future apex. Last fourth one is queuable apex. Queuable apex. Now, what is the batch apex? And why do I use the batch apex? Batch is nothing but bulk. Batch is nothing but bulk of information. Batch is nothing but bulk of information. Batch is asynchronous execution of apex code, right? This is the asynchronous execution of the apex code. What will happen to process large amount of data? To process the large data to overcome the governor limits. To overcome the governor limits. Now, batch apex is basically to process the bulk amount of data at the same time. First of all, batch apex is asynchronous execution of the apex code. Why Salesforce has given this, why Salesforce has designed this batch apex? Salesforce has designed this batch apex to process the large number of records and has a greater flexibility in governor limits, right? So in order to overcome the governor limits, the batch apex we use. Now, what are the properties of batch apex? Properties, or I can say governor limits, both will come in the same. Now, batch apex, we have to, whenever we are writing the batch apex, we have to use the interface. Interface is mandatory for the batch apex. Interface is mandatory for the batch apex. Now, what is the interface here? We have already discussed. What is the interface?
It's a ready-made structure by the Salesforce to follow.
Whenever we wanted to make a method compulsory, then we have to use the interface. Now, here in this case, for the batch apex, we have to use the interface, which is told by Salesforce. There are many interfaces are there, but which all are interfaces we can use it? The first interface which we have to use is database.batchable. Database.batchable. This is the interface we must use. Batch apex must implement with database.batchable interface. Must implement with database.batchable interface. Now, whenever we are using the database.batchable interface, what are the methods that are mandatory? What are the methods that are mandatory? So basically the database.batchable interface includes three methods. First one is start method. And then we have an execute method. And then we have a finish method. We have to must use. Without using any of this, we cannot implement the batch apex. So that means batch apex will have a standard methods, start, execute, finish. If you are writing the batch apex class, the class should have a start, execute, finish. Without these three methods, we cannot implement. We cannot implement a batch apex. Now, next thing is, how many records can batches process? How many records can batches process? So maximum of 250,000 batches can be processed. Can be processed within the 24 hours. Within the 24 hours, maximum of 250,000 batches can be processed within 24 hours. Now that means each batch, how many? This is the batches. 250,000 batches. I'm not talking about single batch. How many batches can be processed? 250,000 batches can be processed. But for each object, for each batch, how many records does it process? How many records does it process? Each batch consists of 200 records. 200 records in a day. In a day, every batch is going to process the 200 records. When you say 200 records, and above we are saying that maximum 250,000 batches can be processed. Now 200 into 250,000 batches in a day in 24 hours. That means how many records am I processing it here? 200 records each batch. Like that, 250,000 batches are processing that. So that means 50 million records we are processing in a day. 50 million records we are processing in a day. Right? So which is bulk data that we are processing on. Bulk data which we are processing on it. Now, is there any limit that I can run batch? Is there any limit on that? So how many batch job processing at a time? At a time, how many batches can I run it? So we can only have 5 batches, 5 batch jobs processing at a time. So parallelly, I can run 5 batch jobs. Parallelly, I can run 5 batch jobs. Right? So 5 batches, that means 5 parallelly I can run. These are the parallel jobs. So 5 batch job processings, I can do processing at a time. Now, 6th one. So we have another one which is called as a future apex. Okay, future apex. So in batches, like in methods, like whatever the methods we have, methods declared as a future are not allowed in the batch class. That means future apex or implementing the future method that is declared as a future. We cannot allow into the classes that are implementing the database.batchable interface, which are the class that uses the database.batchable interface. We cannot implement a future. So that means methods declared as a future cannot be called from batch apex. Simply, I can say that methods declared as future cannot be called from batch apex. That means when the batch apex is executing, it is in the current state, it is executing it. Future, it will not be executed, and we cannot call the future method from the batch. Now, what are some Garner limits that we can overcome? So one of the thing is SOQL queries. Okay, total number of SOQL queries. Total number of records. Total number of records retrieved by SOQL query. SOQL queries. If it is a synchronous, then we have a 50,000 records we can query. And asynchronous also, we can query 50,000. This is when I'm using the SOQL query. There is no difference between the, when I'm writing the SOQL query, whether it is a synchronous or asynchronous, both are have a 50,000. But in batch apex, instead of SOQL query, what we use is we use the database.query locator. We use the database.query locator, get query locator. In batch apex, we use the database.get query locator in order to query the records. Right? This has some small limit, 10,000. 10,000 synchronous, whether it is a synchronous, whether it is asynchronous. Synchronous or asynchronous, it has a 10,000 records. Synchronous or asynchronous, it is a 10,000. Both are have the 10,000. But here, total number of SOQL queries issued. Here, number of records. But how many SOQL queries can I use it? How many SOQL queries can I use it? That means total number of SOQL query issued. How many can I use the SOQL query? If it is a synchronous, I can use only 100 SOQL queries. If it is a asynchronous, then we have a 200, we can use it. How many SOQLs I can use in asynchronous? I can use the 200. If it is a synchronous, 100 SOQL queries. Now in this scenario, based on whatever we have discussed the limitations, if I have 1,000 records, right? Then if what is the batch limit for each batch? How many records can it process? If I have 1,000 records to process in the batch,
200.
Each batch will have 200 records it is going to process. 200 records it is going to process. Now, if I have 1,000 records that needs to be executed by batch, that means how many batches can be?
We need five batches.
5 batches. 5 batches. So 5 batches can execute it. It will try to complete all the records by dividing into the 5 batches. Who will divide these batches? Start method will divide the batch. How many batches should execute it is divided by the start method. Is divided by the start method. Now, what is the start method here? Start method. So basically the start method is called at the beginning of the batch. Why it is calling the beginning of the batch? Because to collect the data from the database, The start method is called at the beginning of the batch and used to collect data from the database and divides into batches. How many batches should it run? And then once it has all the information, finally it will hand over the complete information to the execute method. It will hand over all the information to execute method. Now, if I wanted to delete 530 records, then how many batches can it run?
3 batches.
3 batches. So start method is going to inform execute method. See, these many records are there. You have to do it in the 3 batches. It is going to pass the information to the execute method. So, and this start method, whenever it is passing to the execute method, how it is going to pass? Like once the start method is done, dividing the batches and collecting the information from the database, what it will do, start method is basically it will return the records either in database.query locator, or we have another one, iterable. So we have a database.query locator or iterable. Okay, so we will see both of them. Don't worry about that. So it will return, the start method will return the data in terms of database.query locator. That is a normal query, or it is going to return the iterable format. In the iterable format, it will have a subject data. Now, this way it is going to pass or hand over information to execute method. Now, once it is hand over to execute method, what is the execute method that gets? Now, execute method is called for each batch. Start method is going to call only one time. During the all 5 batches execution, start method is going to call only one time. But this start method is going to tell how many times the execute method should run. Based on the divided by what are the batches it has, those many times the execute method has to be executed. The execute method is called for each batch of records passed to the method, right? The execute method is called for each batch, right? In above scenario, if I have 1,000 records to be processed, then 5 batches it has to be. These all 1,000 records should be executed in 5 batches. Now execute method has to be executed 5 times, 5 batches. Now, why do we use the execute method? That is fine. How many times it is called? We are clear on that. But why do we use it? We are going to use this method to do all the business logic. We have all the business logic or all required processing, whatever the required processing or any business logic that we wanted to implement. Business logic that we wanted to implement for each chunk of data, right? So we use execute method. Now this execute method will have 2 parameters. Execute method will have 2 parameters. One parameter is data type is one parameter data type is database dot batchable context. Data type dot batchable context. This is one parameter. This is one parameter. What is this? A reference to the database dot batchable context object. This is who will be passing this parameter. We need not to worry about passing this parameter. Automatically, the database dot batchable. We are using the database dot batchable, right? This interface we are using it. So this database dot batchable context is the part of that interface. So no need to worry about that. Now, second parameter is list of objects, list of S objects. When I say S object, such as a list of S object, you can say, or list of account, list of contact, list of leads, whatever you have, list of cases, you can say anything, but which will be always this second parameter will be the list. Now, who will be sending this list of account, list of cases, list of S object? Who will be sending this? The start method will be sending here. Start method will be sending here. First parameter, we need not to worry about it. Second parameter sent by start method. Now, once the execute method is done, next thing is that finish method. Finish method gets executed. It will pass the information to finish method. Now, why we use the finish method? Once the entire process is done by the execute method will hand over to the finish method. I'm done with all the process. Now you take care of your job. What is the finish method job? This method is basically after all batches are processed, we are using the finish method to send some emails, alerts, those kind of a thing. Post-processing operations, we can call it as a post-processing operations. Whatever the data that is updated or saved after that, after the data is stored into the database, after the data is updated into the database, what is the next thing should happen is taken by the finish method. So this finish method is called after all batches are processed. After processing the all batches, the finish method gets called. We use this method to send, I can say, confirmation emails or execute post-processing operation. Post-processing operation. Right? Now, once finish method is there, finish method will take care of post-processing operations. All the post-processing operation could be anything. Okay, usually in the real time for the sending an email, confirmation email or approval emails, we use this. Now, what are the parameters that it has? What is the parameter that finish method has? Parameters are only one parameter it has. Only one parameter. That is database.batchable context. Database.batchable context. Only one parameter. Who will be passing it? Interface will take care. Interface will take care. Clear on the three methods?
Yes, madam.
Let's go to the batch apex structure. Now, batch apex structure. Now, what I need batch apex structure, I need start method. I need execute method. I need finish method. These three methods are needed. Now, let's start. How can we implement this? This batch apex structure is standard. Only the change is the class name will be changed. Okay, now how can we write the apex structure is we have to use the access modifier. You can use the public or global, it's up to you. So let's take it as a global public class. Now here you have to give the class name. And then we have to start using this interface. In order to use the interface, we have to use the keyword called implements. Implements. Database.batchable. Database.batchable. And this database.batchable will have to have S object. This is the standard. This is the standard keyword. For any batch class, you have to blindly follow implements database.batchable S object. Hard coding kind of a thing. Whenever you are implementing a batch apex, this has to be hard coded on the top itself. Whenever we are declaring the class, access modifier class name, then implements database.batchable S object. Now here we are going to start the structure, curly braces. Now inside this, we'll have three methods. We'll have three methods. Now for the three method, usually what we will do, public void method name, we write it, right? Usually we write, in case if I have to declare any method, how we write it, public void and the search. This is how I declare the method, if it is a normal method. But these methods are part of database.batchable. These methods are part of this interface. So what we have to use, anyway, I have to use the access modifier here, which is a global. Now, instead of void, what I'll use is database.query locator. Because search method will have a query locator, which we are going to get the query. Start method, what is the purpose of start method? it is going to get the data from database. How it is going to get the data from database? Using the query locator. So return value will be the database.query locator. Query locator. This is my return value. Now inside this we'll have a start method. Start method. And start method by default has one parameter which is called as database.batchable. Database.batchable, let's say BC. Now this is my start method. Simple, I'm not doing access modifier anyway is mandatory for whether it is a normal class or batch class or whatever the methods are there. Every method access modifier is mandatory. Here I'm using the global instead of public. We can use the public also. It's up to your requirement. Then instead of void, I have a return. It is going to start method is going to return the query. So I can say database.query locator because this is what I'm going to get output from start method. Then we have a execute method. Execute method will also have a access modifier global, and here I'll use the void, similar like normal method, right? That is the global void execute. But here execute method will have a two parameters. One is database.batchable context BC, and then second one is list of S object. List of S object. You can say records. This is the execute method. Now next one is finish method. Finish method will also have a void. So global void finish method. And finish method will have only one parameter, which is a database.batchable context BC. This is the structure. This is the structure of batch class. This is the structure of batch class. This is the structure of batch class. Now, execute method, how does start method hand over the data to the execute method? Does once the data is retrieved from the database, does start method calls the execute method? No, it will not call. So for example, if you take a normal class, inside the class I have two methods, public void, let's say search, and there is another method, public void, let's say new search. Okay, so this is the new search is the method name. Now in case if I wanted to call previous method here, what I'll do, I'll call this method here, right? So that once all the logic is done in the new search method, then I'll call the another method here. This is how we do it in the normal class. But coming to the batch apex, we will not call the execute method inside the start method. We will not call. I'll not call the finish method inside the execute method after doing all the logic, all the business logic is completed. I'll not call the finish method. Who will be taken care after the start method, which method to be executed after the execute method, which method should be executed, who will take care of it? Database.batchable. Interface is going to take care of it. Interface is going to take care of it. We need not to explicitly mention this here. In the start method, I need not to explicitly mention here execute method, because the interface is automatically taking care of which one should execute first, which one should execute next, which one should execute after that. This will decide it. This is going to decide it. So we need not to worry about that. Is it clear?
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions, whatever we have discussed so far on that, any questions? There is a lot more to discuss on the batch apex, but so far whatever we have discussed, any questions on this?
29th line. Here we are discussing for 24 hours we can call 2,50,000 batches.
Okay.
At the 30th line, the maximum size of batch is 2,000. Can I assume like 2,000 into 2,50,000?
200 into 2,50,000.
No, no, ma'am. Maximum batch size is minimum batch size is 1 and maximum batch size is 2,000 and default batch size is 200 days.
Can you
Can
repeat
I
that?
Huh?
Can you repeat?
Minimum batch size is 1.
Okay.
Maximum batch size is 2,000.
What is the maximum batch size?
Maximum batch size means query locator we can assume
If you have a query locator, 2000 records, query locator will divide that into the number of batches. If you have a 2000 records, okay, if you have a 2000 records to be processed,
okay.
each batch will process the only one record. In your case, only one record. So how many batches that it divide?
Ma'am, I'm asking, I'm thinking maximum batch size. Batch size minimum batch size is 1 and maximum batch size is 200. Sorry, default batch size is 200, ma'am. I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
maximum batch size is 2,000.
How can you make maximum batch 2,000? I'm not getting the question clarity.
I referred some materials.
Yes, ma'am. I also.
Yeah,
I read,
yeah,
I
madam.
read somewhere.
Like, we are saying that 2,50,000 per day, no?
Hmm.
That is into 2 means that is, as you said, our overall 50 millions.
Hmm.
250 into 2,000 becoming 50 million, no, madam? In 24 hours.
What is 250?
250 lakh, 24 hours you said.
Okay.
Batches. Those are
Batches.
batches.
Okay, those batches. So when we are in multiplying 250 into 2,000, that means we are coming overall 50 million per day. That is 24 hours.
What is 2000 here?
Maximum batch size, ma'am.
Maximum,
That-
yeah. So, yes.
One batch can have maximum of 2,000
200.
records.
Okay.
That is
Maximum
the
2,000. It is default 200 and minimum is 1.
Okay.
You can process in one batch.
Mhm.
Yes.
I don't know what is the question that you are asking. Question, I did not get it. That is fine. What is the question?
means he is asking that
Can
like
you bring me the link which you are referring?
Okay. Yes. You can proceed. That was my question. Sohan, you can.
Can anybody ping the link? The one which you are referring?
Okay. I will post a pic your in WhatsApp group. Next doubt, ma'am.
Just a second. I wanted to clarify that. What is that question that I have? Can anybody ping that?
now immediately you want, ma'am.
Okay. Are you asking about this? Here mentioning the 2000.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So if it is a 2000, then it is again 2000 multiplied by 2,50,000. Fine. But that is again depending on your org license. If your org license is, it is basically if you have your license in your org, license of your organization, and then multiply by 2,50,000. If you have a license to go ahead with a 2,000 or whatever it is there, then whatever the number of license you have in the organization, that into the 2,50,000. It's depending on your org limit also. Fine. Okay, what is the next one?
Ma'am, can I read one statement now?
Which one you are asking question? First tell me.
Like that only 2000 batch size is there.
Okay, can you ping me that link wherever you are reading it?
Okay, can I ping in WhatsApp?
No, here in the chat.
Here in the chat. Okay.
Okay, ping me, I'll take a break and I'll come back.